This is my farm.
Don't come out here and tell me what I need.
I need solutions that work and market options that are worth my time.
Small town support that sees the bigger picture.
A global network that empowers us. A co-op that's there for us every day.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined this week by Phil Brasher, as well as American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall. And Zippy, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time to join us. Certainly a lot of issues to be discussed here in the wide scheme of farm policy. But one of the most important things that we saw in the last couple of weeks, and this week in particular, we saw the Trump administration begin sign up for the coronavirus food assistance program. Saw that, the details announced last week, sign up officially beginning this week. I'm curious to hear, as someone who speaks with a lot of farmers and ranchers from across the country in your capacity and in your position, wondering, just in this first week, what's the initial reaction? What are folks telling you about what they think about, not only the CFAP program itself, but also the sign-up process that we launched here this week?
Well, I think there's a lot more questions than there are problems right now. Looks like they've done a really good job of rolling this out. Of course, before they even rolled it out, the secretary personally told me that, hey, you just monitor your farmers. If we find holes in this program, we'll try to find a way to fill those holes up, because they know that they're going to miss something somewhere. But there's a lot of questions as to how it fits each individual operation. And of course, there are some holes we've already discovered. There's nothing in there for a poultry producer or contract poultry producer, and we're hoping to push forward in the next package to get something for that. Then there's some difficulty for farmers that's never done business with the FSA, of getting in and signing up, not having any history there, not knowing how to do it, offices being closed, having to do it by phone and on a computer. So there are some difficulties there. And then I think, too, there's some staffing, lack of staffing across the country in particular areas of the country. And I know USDA knows that and been trying to fix that, and just been difficult to fix those spots. But those are the main things. But more questions at this point than really problems.
Zippy, you brought up the next package. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hasn't committed to it yet. Certainly holding it out as a possibility in the next month or so. What will the House just passed a bill, House Democrats passed a bill, had another $16.5 billion in direct payments, basically doubling what's going out now we've been talking about, plus a number of other provisions in there for indemnifying pork producers and dealing with ethanol. What has got to be done beyond that House bill? Is that insufficient? Talk about what you need in this second package.
Well, we really are interested in seeing the CCC pot of money being increased. We think that if you put inflationary factor on that number, that is $30 billion, since they've raised it to $30 billion, right now it should be about $68 billion. So we're asking for an increase there to make sure that the secretary has the right amount of money to be able to help agriculture, not just through COVID, but through other issues that are going to face us in the future. So that's the biggest thing. The second thing was one I mentioned a while ago was poultry producers. As the COVID virus hits the packing plants around poultry processing, we're beginning to see some depopulation of farms. We're also seeing some downtime between batches of chickens stretch out. I'm in the poultry business myself. I haven't had a problem at my plant, but I'm hearing scattered across the southeast and up in the Del Mar Peninsula, we've had some difficulties in processing in poultry there. So we need to make sure we fix that. And then, of course, we want to. It won't be part of the package, but we've been really watching close the pricing of beef. The big differential in the price of box cutout meat and what the producer is receiving has gotten way out of whack, and it's getting closer together now. But why that was caused and why some of that money didn't get back to farmers, we'd like some answers on that.
Is there anything this next bill should do to address the issues in the packing plants that had a lot to do with this price differential?
Well, I don't know that they can put anything in the bill. You know, of course, all of us are focused on employee safety, whether it be on our farm, whether it be in a packing plant, or whether it be in the food chain all the way to the grocery shelf. That's got to be our number one priority. And but as in doing that, we need to make sure that we're working with local governments, local health departments, governors, commissioners of agriculture in those particular states to make sure that we do everything we can do to try to keep those packing plants up and running. This last week has been a good week. I understand that beef has gotten back. They think next week they might hit 90% of capacity. And I think pork is gotten close to 82%, 85% this week. So they're coming back fast, and they're doing it in a way that's trying to keep doing it in a way to keep their employees safe. And I think you see a lot of the increased problems around packing plants because we've got a lot of testing going on there, which is a good thing. They should be tested. But if we was testing our communities, we'd probably find a lot more in our communities if we were testing individual communities. So it's just got to be on our radar to make sure that employee safety is the number one thing and they get all the proper equipment to work with.
As tough as things are today and this year, growing season, some economists are saying that next year is shaping up to be just as bad. They don't see a lot of reason for commodity prices to come back given the global recession. Given the reduction in demand for energy and so forth. Are we going to be back here? Are you going to be back here asking for another more assistance in 2021?
Well, we hope not, Phil. But if you look at what's happening around the world right now, and the president's having a press conference right now that I'm sure all three of us are very interested in what he's doing around that situation with China and Hong Kong, because it very much could interfere with the phase one agricultural trades that China has promised to make. That $40 billion worth of purchases could have really changed the market here in America. That kind of an increase could have made a tremendous effect on prices that we receive at our farms. And if something happens to that, it's going to put us behind the eight ball. I've described this whole situation since it started having decline in our income back in 14, 15, that this has been the perfect storm for agriculture. And those elements of that storm continue to get bigger, and they surprise us. Who would have ever thought that we'd had this virus hit our country and destroy our economy, and along with it, already crippling ag economy. So next year looks very difficult. We're concerned about corn and ethanol production, the byproducts coming out of ethanol plants for feedstuff for animals, and the possibility of trade with China going south gives you a glim picture of what the future might look like. We've already seen an increase in bankruptcies. Of course, I lived through the 80s. I farmed through the 80s as a young farmer. We're nowhere near that level that we saw in the 80s, but to see it increasing over the last 12 months is very concerning to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Zippy, I want to wrap up here, just kind of touching base on a subject that is certainly no stranger to you, no stranger to American Farm Bureau, the issue of ag labor. That's obviously something that has been very important to Farm Bureau and Farm Bureau members for quite a while now. And heading into this COVID-19 pandemic, we heard a lot of concern about potential issues, getting H-2A workers into the country, obviously at a very critical time for a lot of producers across the country, across a lot of different production systems. So I guess, I'll just broadly ask you, how are your folks doing? as we look at this issue that we've been facing, as we look at what the challenges that were ahead of us. How are farmers and ranchers and Farm Bureau members, how are they doing in the midst of what was potentially a really serious ag labor issue?
Yeah, we that was the very first thing that hit us when we went into this COVID situation, and we were very concerned when the consulates were closed in Mexico and other areas in Central America, wondering whether we was going to get that 250,000 H-2A workers here to America. The State Department, this administration, and USDA has been a tremendous partner of ours to try to solve those problems by giving a waiver, and only a waiver of that face-to-face interview, and letting workers come into our country. So our workforce has been pretty well. Where we have run into some problems were other countries where the transportation was cut off. So we have some isolated spots across the country that we've had some problems, but overall it's been pretty good. So, but because the administration worked with us, it could have been disastrous, but they worked with us to help us iron out some of the problems that we had to get those workers here.
Well, good to hear that. And as always, it's good to hear from you, Zippy, as we talk about just kind of a wide variety of issues facing American agriculture and facing farm policy here this week. Even on a holiday week, even on a quote unquote short week for farm policy, farmers are still working hard, and as are we. And so we certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk with us here today, Zippy.
Well, thank you. And we want American people to know that we're still working. And we started this hashtag Still Farming, and it's touched I don't know how many millions of people, and there's more people using the hashtag that's not even in agriculture than there are in agriculture using it. So if some of the people out there want to meet some of the farmers that are struggling through this, trying to get through it, but they're out there still working, we'd invite them to come and visit the hashtag Still Farming.
Very good. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Zippy Duvall and Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.